Okay, so we ourselves think that there is an issue with existing, and we feel as if there's an issue. We feel that there's something wrong with existence itself. We feel that there's some sort of problem to fix, and that there's something wrong. But the real problem is thinking that there's a problem. And existing, it's not the human condition that messes us up. It's not just pure deficiency in chemicals or being a human in its own right, because humans are created in the image of God. So are we not perfect as we are? So there's obviously we're seeing something wrong. We're not seeing something correctly, and that's purely because we've been misled, and we've been miseducated. We've been manipulated, and we have been fooled. We've been fooled and tricked, and I'll lay out exactly how we've been fooled and tricked. It comes down to simply our philosophical attitude. A few things. Overall, you can say it's our philosophical attitude towards life, the way we see the world, right? Because the way we think about the world becomes the way we see about it, the way we see it. However, if we don't think about the world, then we don't see it in the way we think about it, but we see the world for how it is. So we've been purely misled, and it comes down to our philosophical attitude, a very vague attitude, the programming that we've been instilled with, and we just don't even know. We're not even told the truth. I mean, it's like if anybody who has been used to living a normal person, if any normal person is suddenly exposed to the way the world actually is, reality for itself, they would shit their pants. It would send their head spinning, because reality itself, or how it is so much different than the way we've been programmed to see reality. And human beings can be programmed, and human beings can be hypnotized simply by speaking to them, by words. We've been literally hypnotized. You don't have to sit someone down and make them drowsy and dangle a stopwatch in front of their face. You can hypnotize someone simply by talking to them, using different colors, images, words, and meanings behind those words, and you can hypnotize someone simply by that. All those billboards you see outside, those billboards give you a certain thought. Like 1 second. So I'm going to use 2 ways that we've been hypnotized. Two examples of how we've been hypnotized. So this first example is the Cheerios box. You look at the Cheerios box, and what do you feel when you see this? Cheerios. We love you. Can help lower cholesterol as a part of a healthy heart diet. A heart-healthy diet. Oh! When really, it's mainly sugar. And people don't have just 1 serving. There's 11 servings in this box. Who just has 1 serving of this? So who knows how much sugar? And, it's very misleading, because you don't really know what's in the food you're eating. Look at a tocopherol. A tocopherol, vitamin E. A tocopherol is a preservative. And actually messes with your brain, messes with your head. And so General Mills, they put a heart there to say, we're not evil. We care about you. We love you. It's just, you look at the box and you get a certain feeling about what's inside the box, about what it's about. But the thing inside the box isn't how it's represented on the outside, but we think that it is what it's represented as. So this is an example of hypnotizing. Chocolate Cheerios. And see, and then Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts. Good for you. It's good. It's tasty. These things are awful for you. So many chemicals. Just look at the ingredients. Sodium acid pyrophosphate, monocalcium phosphate, citric acid, gelatin. You know what gelatin is? It's really pig. It's like pig toenails or pig skin or something. Cornstarch, red 40, yellow 6, blue 1. So it's just the of it gives you a certain feeling about what it is, gives you a certain idea about Pop-Tarts, and then cheers. See, so it's like these are two examples of how they use advertising, and they use signs, and they use different words and symbols with the words, and they make the words look a certain way to make you think a certain way. And really, so what it is it's the language we speak gives us a certain image of the world, gives us a certain feeling about the world, makes us think a certain way, makes us think that living in these box houses is normal, is okay, and that our way of life is the advanced way. It's the modern way. It's good. So I knew a Malaysian. I had a Malaysian roommate at one point, and he told me that their culture was just the same way as we are. They think Malaysia is good, Americans are bad, and that the fact that you don't like the culture you live in, that means you're bad. So everywhere people are brainwashed by simply the language they speak will make them feel like a certain way, you know. And he said that speaking Chinese makes you see the world in a quote, depressed and gray way. Speaking Chinese, modern Chinese. Whereas when he learned English was a more fun and exciting way of seeing the world. So it's like you trick people and you give them the idea that it's fun, it's good, life, yeah. But then there's something wrong. In the back of your mind something's wrong. And the more smart, the more we progress generationally, the generations that go on over time, each generation is better than the last. So each generation gets smarter and more aware than the last, thus more mental illness. But it's also the way that we're kind of really clamping down on just like an unnatural way of living. And so it's like we say there's mental illness, and we just got to figure out a solution. What about the way we're living? What about the things that we don't examine? No one thinks about what is my philosophy towards the world. Like when you think about what is my philosophy towards the world, you're thinking about your philosophy towards the world in terms of your philosophy towards the world. So you don't really turn your consciousness on itself and then look at is the way I'm seeing the world actually the correct way, or has it been changed and manipulated purposely by people who simply just want control? The biggest gangsters are the government. It's just they're the biggest criminals are the ones that don't get caught, but the criminals that we throw in jail are the ones who just don't make it. So it's like I'll start with this. I wrote this. It's the dynamic and the philosophical attitude of today's age since the late 18th century has been that the myths of the ancients are only primitive forms of thought. All attempts to make sense of a world in a simple-minded and ignorant way, excluding the indisputable art of science through which we perceive the world today. So a myth is actually a way of describing the world. It's not just a made-up story. A myth itself, it's like we say like the universe itself is expanding, and you could look at the universe like an expanding balloon with dots on it as the stars. The universe itself is an expanding balloon, but you demonstrate how the universe is by imagining an expanding balloon. So that's what a myth is. And yeah. So we have myths. The way we see the world is a myth. The scientific um, neurochemical psychiatry uh, psychology way of seeing the world that is simply outdated and has been established in the 18th and 19th centuries is a myth as well. It's a way of describing the world. It's no different than the primitive myths of the ancients. And how it actually is that people back then were more in touch with themselves than we are today. So it's like, who's primitive now, right? Just because we have technology doesn't mean that we're more advanced. We're more advanced in what? In technology? What determines this? What determines what's advanced and what's not advanced? And we don't even know what we've been lied to about. We don't even know how they built the pyramids, right? It's like, well, we don't. The official narrative doesn't tell us. They say we don't know, but other people, they're like, wait, I know how it is, and everybody's like, nah, shut up, because it's not a part of the official cultural narrative. So to seem impartial, I can say that I don't know if it was a planned intention to formulate an argument for what reality is based on solely the concepts developed through measurements of what is visible and recordable with our instruments of measurement. So say it again. We have formulated an idea of what reality is solely based on concepts developed through the measurements that the measuring tools and the measurements like inches and yards and distance and weight and gravity, all of our ideas about the world and all of our measurements of it, measurements of what's visible and recordable with our instruments, we have developed a concept, an argument of reality just based on what we can measure. So I don't know if that was a planned thing to do, or if the philosophers of the West in the late 18th to 19th centuries actually felt compelled to view reality in such a plain, explainable, and simple way, and therefore caught fire with the masses with whom it was fashionable to stray away from the oppressive ideas of God and religion, which have ruled the ideas of everyone for centuries prior. Because the image of God, right, it's not God's self, but the image of God became oppressive. So people were like, yes, okay, we're tired of God, let's get rid of it, right? But it's funny because they got rid of the lawmaker, but they kept the laws. So who made the laws of nature? If we want to argue that it's a consistent thing, I really think that the laws of nature are just regularities that we create, just regularities that we observe on a daily basis, and we say that's a law, but it doesn't mean that that's just the way it is. It doesn't mean that it can't be changed, that it's not malleable. It's just a regularity. The latter is definitely not true, as no true scientist would disregard reality for how it is and combat it with a clinical and fake image of the world. So it was a way of fashioning our attitude towards the world to make us feel like the world isn't worth living in, and it's not exciting, and there's nothing to wonder about. Can you imagine people actually think that in this vast infinite universe that's always expanding, that our planet, just our planet, is the only planet with intelligent life in this entire universe? So that's part of the programming, and as long as people are unconscious and don't want to give up their self-identity, which is based on the social programming, they will say, yeah, it's silly to think that there's aliens somewhere else. And it's not worth thinking about. You only say it's not worth thinking about because you don't want to give up your fake image of yourself, which is based on the crazy ideas that society gave you, that we're the only ones that exist in the entire universe. How could anybody believe that if you actually think about it? I mean, nowadays, the talk of UFOs, it's National UFO Day today, actually. I forgot about that. I just found that out today, that it's National UFO Day. Nowadays, it's like easy to talk about. Like, yep. Because we're a lot smarter. But back then, we were a lot more easily manipulated because the algorithm for the human species was duller back then, but now my generation and then my children's generation and then the generation after that, they will be a lot more advanced. The algorithm will be a lot more complex when they come along, right? They'll be a lot more aware and smarter. So we're a lot more aware and smarter than the prior generations, and thus we've been able to create this technology. And then the technology feeds us to make us more smarter, and then because we're more smarter, we create more technology. So it's like transactional. It's both. And I said, furthermore, it is fact that all the research which has gone towards viewing reality through a broader spectrum has been attacked, ridiculed, and defunded, while the ideas of a dead and unintelligent universe, which is meaningless, has in fact been stigmatized as truth and funded heavily, very heavily. It's like the only credible academic position has been to see the world in a clinical and dead way, to say that, well, what even is our philosophy? What even is it? It's just everything, nothing is conscious. We're the only conscious ones. And then we're just mechanisms. We're just mechanisms. I had someone come up to me recently and say, talk to me as if like taking psychedelic drugs changed my brain mechanism, and she talked to me as if I was a mechanism, because that's simply that's the respectable way to talk about human beings, is that we're just mechanisms, and that the cause and effect, this drug caused you to get insane, but simple. So it's like, if we were sober-minded, right, if we weren't so stressed out all the time, we would be able to like see these things and be like, why would I ever think that way? Because I know myself. It has become very clear to me that the simple-minded and vague outline of our modern-day philosophy, that is to say, the overtones of reality is implied through public and most private institutions in our society, in our culture, the scientific philosophy, the boring view of the world, the aesthetic philosophy, has been very well planned and calculated to pertain and be very attractive, and this is important, to the psyche of a human being who has been traumatized in life and who has said, whatever, it's not worth it, because they've been hurt and they've given up. And this type of philosophy is very attractive to someone who wants to give up, who has given up, and who has been traumatized in life and now feels like they're a man, like they're masculine by seeing the world in such a face the facts way. A sort of giving up and oh well idea of the world is very attractive to someone who has already been made to make the decision for themselves to give up and say oh well to life, only to have this accepted perception of how things are, a mundane, bleak, clinical, cause-effect, and unmagical view of the world, perpetuating the oh well type of attitude. Now, how could there be causes and effects? Either there are no causes and effects and everything is just a continuum, or, I mean, how could there be cause, effect? Like separate causes and effect. It's only our definition of like this individual thing caused this individual thing. Well, we only look at it as an individual thing because that's what we define an event as. But there are no, it's just all flowing. There's no individual causes and effects. Cause effect. Silly, isn't it? It's only definition. It's only definition of what is. This has been purposely devised to control those who have loved and then have been heartbroken over and over again until they begin to believe what is not true about themselves and the world. Of course, pessimistic attitude towards life because you've been heartbroken. And it pertains to people who have been heartbroken. And so they fashion the world in such a way where people will be heartbroken. They separate families and they make families stressed out, and they put fathers and mothers in the stressful situation of upholding a family, and then in their frustration and rage, they're going to hurt their kids. And of course, their kids will be hurt. So then they fashion a philosophy which will pertain to the kids who have been hurt. You can figure this thing out if you let yourself think, if you let your thoughts just run, and you think outside of the box, we've been placed in, because we've been placed in a box so that we can work for the big bullies, for the U.S. government and the entire world government. They want to establish a one world government, and they want to take away all of our rights. That's what they want to do. They have been working at this, and they were working at this, and the final goal, which is coming up, which they want to do, which won't happen, but they're trying to establish a one world government to control us all and reduce the population too. So it's like we work for them. It's like, oh, we're not slaves because we get paid and we can do whatever we want. We can do whatever we want within the bounds of the plantation that we've been placed on. We're living in a corporation. We're living on a mall. We're living in a plantation. What does your life consist of? Just doing things to be useful. Where's the wonder? This pessimistic attitude towards life is clearly not a realistic way to see things. It is a veiled perception, one which is mythical, so as to explain a myth, so as to explain why situations in life have hurt you so badly, and why you can justify instilling them, as the blank slate you came in with was one full of love and joy, one where you were truly living, only to be corrupted by those who have been corrupted by their own contemporaries. Contemporary means someone who came before, right? Remember yeah, whatever. Moderate means really someone who came from the same age. Remember when you were a baby, you came in so happy, then you suddenly became depressed? Why? In what way are you seeing? It's just the perception of your life. It's not the chemicals in your head, but it's the perception of the way you're seeing the world and your behavior in it. Nor is this philosophy conducive to actually living as once one has given up. Their daily operations have been reduced to a mere passive witnessing of the mental habits that can run on without your actual participation, so as not to be hurt again. This is a robotic, sleepwalking state, and that's what they want to put us all in. A robotic, sleepwalking state, so we can just work for them and not question anything. So when you give up on life, you're disassociated. You're not, unless you come back into yourself sometimes, but like for the main part of the main overall part of your life, if you have given up, you're in a robotic sleep state, and that's what they've succeeded in putting a lot of people in, is a robotic sleepwalking state, not questioning anything. That's what they want you to do, so they can continue to feed off your energy and make money off you. In the sleepwalking state, imagine someone in a daze after witnessing a bomb kill his entire family. And only in the sleepwalking state you can brainwash the population. If you're fully awake, you can't brainwash anybody. But if you put someone in a sleepwalking state, in a sleep state, it's much easier to just go to sleep for life. It's much easier not to participate, not to actually engage yourself in energies which might harm you. It's much easier to do that than to actually be awake for a world that there's no point in existing in. So you just simply, you're afraid of death, you're afraid of dying, but you don't want to live. So you're in purgatory. It's like, which is terrifying. And the philosophy of the world only encourages this state, as if the world is predictable, boring, meaningless, and lacking in actual wonder and magic. Why waste energy, even risk being hurt again, actually participating in it? The logic is this: if there's nothing good in the world and in life, if there is no magic, why bother? It must be more intelligent to stay asleep for it instead of wasting my time with something that only hurts, right? This calculated philosophy has been designed to ferment a dumpy and useless mindset. Imagine Homer Simpson. Imagine Family Guy. Peter Griffin. Imagine uh, Fred Flintstone. Or, yeah, imagine like Fred Flintstone. You're really just like bullshitting around because you don't want to actually participate in life. So you're just, they show it to us like this is like what you're like. This is you. They're showing you Homer Simpson is really how you're acting to all the adults who have gone to sleep for life and are not really participating in life, but are just bullshitting around, which is hard to, which is hard. It's hard once you get into it. It's hard to like really be honest with yourself. So I'm not saying anybody is like, I'm just saying the facts. Which called in this calculated philosophy, which has been designed to ferment a dumpy and useless mindset. Imagine Homer Simpson and Fred Flintstone, which cultivates fools who laugh at the wise and knowledgeable and who laugh at the wise and knowledgeable, and ignorant who think they are in fact wise and knowledgeable. It's like Hermes. I read in the Hermetica, his prophecy was that in the coming days, people would laugh at any mystical comments. People would laugh at anything wondrous. The fools would be regarded as wise, and then the wise would be regarded as fools. That's the age we live in. Because it's only because people see someone with spirit and they're actually jealous that that person has spirit. So when they laugh at you, they're actually laughing at themselves for not, they're seeing you engage your own spirit, and they're laughing at themselves for not letting themselves let their spirit shine. When someone judges, they're really judging themselves. To program a vision of reality which has substance and underlying and unconscious guilt-breeding tones of classically practiced Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, and an explicit understanding of reality which is an analytical, sterile, and dead. To program a vision of reality which has substance and underlying and unconscious guilt-breeding tones of classically practiced Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and an explicit understanding of reality which is analytical, sterile, and dead is an extremely clever, bold, and efficient method of cultivating an extremely large mass of brainwashed human beings so as to control and profit off of them like the cattle they're seen to be. The billionaires call us useless eaters. I find that quite funny. The useless eaters. That's what they I mean, I'm not anti-human. I love humans. And my goal is to destroy this establishment, but they call us useless eaters. Are we not? When we're in this state of when we're in this like sleepwalking brainwashed state and we don't question anything. And you have your midlife crisis or a quarter life crisis nowadays when you start using your mind on a full and regular basis instead of actually existing in the world and not just thinking about it. So you have that crisis when like you start to fall asleep and you're like, and then you buy the hot rod and you wear your clothes from when you were 19 and you try to find excitement in your life. You jump out of a plane or do this or that because you're looking for the excitement. You're looking to be alive because you don't really know what went wrong, but you do. And you're sleeping through life, basically. And it happens when you come of the age when you suddenly just start using your brain, your mind, your thinking faculty all the time instead of actually existing and being present in the world and seeing the world for how it is. So you have that crisis. You're like, this is something's wrong because you're falling asleep. But there's no distance you can go. You can't go so far without being able to come back always. So you can always come back. Even if you've been brainwashed or fall asleep, you can always come back. to the paradise that has been lost. The only way to save ourselves from this is to begin to snap out of it. Start researching the esoteric, start reading books, stop watching television, stop watching the news and internet programming, and start rediscovering that this has been your dream all along, and that the story of Christ is really the story of you and Jesus. So, and then this other part. The whole trick of instilling fear is programming a mindset, a vision of reality, which implies the opposite of what reality actually is. The opposite, not really the opposite, just something that's like way far out, just so far out than from what reality actually is, that we're creative beings and that we are the actual universe and that we are magical and that things beyond our comprehension actually exist, and that the world is not dull or boring in any sense of the world. There are dimensions, and there are alien beings, and there are spirits and everything. And so they program a mindset to make everything that is exciting seem to not exist. As Hermes said, they would stop looking at the universe in awe and wonder, at God's universe in awe and wonder, but they would start to despise it. Because they don't see the world for how it is. The opposite of what reality is, and this is important, is the idea that you have outside forces acting upon you. Listen to that. The opposite of what reality is the idea that you have outside forces acting upon you that you cannot control. You actually create everything in your life. You know, everything is actually in your head. Have you ever experienced something that's not in your brain? What you're experiencing right now is the content, is the stimulus in your brain, is what your brain is giving to your consciousness. That's what you're experiencing. That's all you've been experiencing, is just in your head. So it's all in your head. So the idea of distance, bye-bye. Distance is really funny because we say these two objects increase the distance between them. So we can increase distance. Okay, so we increase distance. But then you can also say the distance between us increased. So the distance increased, or we increased the distance. So there's something funny about distance and about space. You know, it's all just in your brain. Literally. That's just the facts. All you actually know is like straight up just in your brain. You never experience the actual world for how it is. You never see the world without the filter of your brain. Just take a moment right now and just know right now that what you're experiencing is your brain. That's a little too much, isn't it? It's like, woo! Because there's like no... It's like, I just can't stop thinking about it, right? It's like our just habit. We can't stop thinking about what we're seeing. We gotta think about what we're seeing. We gotta think about it. We gotta analyze it. We gotta make sure we know what we're seeing, because if we don't think about it, we might not know what we're seeing. So it causes dementia. Because in the attempt to think about everything you're seeing, in the attempt to analyze and think about everything you're seeing, you're actually not seeing things for how they are. And you're actually driving yourself crazy. So it's like, just stop thinking about it, because your brain does the activity on its own. You don't have to force your thoughts. Your thoughts just run on. Think about it. When you just watch the mind, you realize, oh, I'm not thinking the thoughts. And what does that make me? There's no thinker to the thoughts. There's no thinker to the thoughts. There's just thoughts. It's just the English language. We need a subject, object, and verb. So we need a thinker to think the thoughts. It's just a grammatical rule. We need a thinker to think the thoughts. It's just that fashions the entire way we see the world. Is our grammatical structure of how we speak. It's the Maya. It's the play. It's the play of words. It's the illusion. The illusion of words. Imagine if we had a language where we didn't need a subject. There were no nouns, and we just saw the world for verbs. There was just thinking, seeing. I don't have to say I see. Isn't that implicit? I don't have to say I see, or it is raining, or the lightning flashed. It's just flashing. Lightning implies flashing, because lightning is flashing. Seeing. I am seeing. Yeah. Yes. Who is seeing? So if I was to reshape the entire way we do education, it would be reshaping the language first, because the language is exactly how we see the world. So I would create it. I would make a new rule. We're no longer speaking English. Not anymore. We're speaking Latin. We're going to speak Latin now. How's that? Or we'll speak even better, Proto-Indo-European, the reconstructed language, Proto-Indo-European, where there's a lot more inflection and different syntax, different linguistic syntax. I am thinking. Okay, it's just thinking. There are no outside forces acting upon you, but you just create the world that you live in all the time. What is true is that it is all you. So it is all you. This whole time, you might have been pretending that there are actually outside things acting on you, and that you cannot control. But so the illusion, right, is thought about the world, is thinking about the world, is thoughts about the world, right? So that's what illusion is. What's going on right now? Are your thoughts existing right now in the world? What's going on right now? What's the only consciousness? What's the only one right now? That's what it means. You're the only consciousness right now. In your own experience, have you ever experienced anybody else's consciousness? Any idea of what someone else is experiencing about you is an illusion. Simply, there's no future or present. There's no future, present, or past. It's just we're afraid to do that because we're afraid to feel our feelings, because we're so used to thinking all the time and avoiding our feelings. I think that's part of the programming that we've been giving too. It's the manipulating the human mind so that we feel like we shouldn't feel our feelings. So for some reason we all just don't want to feel our feelings. And so it's hard to be present. And if it's hard to be present, then you can't see the world for how it is, but you see the world for the images that you create in your own head. So it's all you. It's all your life. You're the main character of your life. No one else is. How could anybody else be the main character of your own life? So literally, the only thing that exists is this one consciousness. You're the one, right? You're the one consciousness. The Neo of the Matrix. Matrix, the thought matrix. The thought matrix that creates the illusion of other things going on up here, but it's just up here. It's not really out here. What's out here is just your one consciousness. And any idea about this is the past for the present that is right now, and that this is the future of the present that was. See, like, it's just ways of thinking about the world. It's just, you might have been pretending that mental illness is something that acts on you and something which you cannot do anything about, when really it is all you doing it to yourself. That's karma. That's just doing. The wheel of samsara. You don't have to reincarnate. You don't have to participate in the wheel of samsara. It's all just your own doing. So as long as you think you have to do stuff, as long as you think you have to act, then you have to act. But when you want to stop playing the game, then you can simply drop it like that and become a Buddha. A Buddha is someone who knows that they're a Buddha. But an unawakened person is a Buddha who doesn't know they're the Buddha. So the Buddha is a Buddha who knows he's a Buddha. But a non-Buddha is a Buddha who doesn't know he's a Buddha. So, they're pretending to be form. It all comes down to our self-identity, our false sense of identity. What I am right now is not the thoughts about me, is not what I think I am, is not what other people tell me I am, but it's just this. It's nothing. That's what I am. Despite my form, I might trick you. I might trick you into thinking I'm something other than nothing, but I really am just nothing. I'm telling you, all I am is nothing. And any thought that you're some sort of character is simply a thought. So it's a Maya. It's not real. And what's real is this: the sounds. There are no five senses. All the senses are one, just different axioms. To use a big word, what does that word even mean? Axiom. Axiomatic. A self-evident or universally recognized truth. A maxim. An established rule. A self-evident principle, or one that is accepted as true without proof as the basis for argument. A postulate. So that's how we see the world. It's a self-evident principle, or something that is accepted as truth without proof. Well, anything. I meant to say aspects. The five senses are just different aspects of the one sense of existing. The one sense is just existing, right? So hearing, seeing, feeling, smelling, tasting, it's all aspects of the one sense. And the fact that they say you have five senses, we delineate it, and we think, yes, I am seeing, and then I am hearing, and then this is tasting. But it's all just the one sense. And when you take psychedelics, you realize that all the senses, that you can see sounds, that you can hear smells, you can taste vision, right? So it's like all the senses are really one, but it's just our thought about it that makes it seem as if it's not. So mental illness is all just you doing it to yourself. The same goes for interpersonal relationships and events in one's life, all of which are really reflections of yourself. So the Buddhists, right, a great philosophy, a great ancient philosophy, says the world is like a mirror. Exactly like a mirror. Exactly. That's what you find out when you awaken, that the world itself is exactly like a mirror. And that's like, oh, I can no longer make the world responsible for my problems, but I'm responsible for my problems, because the world itself is a mirror of myself. I found that out this morning. I was feeling good, and I was ready to take a shower, and I was kind of just like grooving. I was dancing to a song, and I was really letting myself loose. And then suddenly I thought, this is ridiculous. Why are you dancing? And then I made myself sad. And then when I made myself sad, something bad happened, because I created it. The world is a mirror of you because it is you. The one goal of life is to reunite. This is the real goal of life, why we exist. The one goal of life is to reunite with the Godhead, or the higher self, or the one self, or the one Christ. So we leave the one Christ in order to like go through the hero's journey of coming back to the one Christ, which is you, which is your second half, which is God, that will talk to you and will is always with you. You can never leave God. So it's like just like dropping the illusions, and then when I realize I'm one with God. which is the greatest thing. It's like when you leave someone, you like leave a relationship, and then you don't talk to them for a long time. It's like you come back into the relationship, and it's like so much better because you've missed them for so long, and then somehow reuniting with them is the greatest thing. That's like God. That's what God is. It's doing this adventure and then just reuniting, uh, feeling the secret, uh, realizing the truth about existence. Like that is like reuniting with your grand lover that you have lost, and that you're just like coming back to. It's like when you're a child, like you can't verbalize it, but like you see your lover all around you, and you look at babies, they're enchanted, not enchanted, but they're magnetized by the entire world. Babies, because they see their lover, and their lover is saying hi back to them always, and that's what you see when you awaken. It's here's your lover. And the way I saw it is that the world is intelligent. The world is somehow intelligent. You can't say how. You can't say why. But the world is intelligent. And that's God. That's what you're in. That's what the entire universe is. It's God. But it's also you. Because you and God are one. But so the thing is, it's like there's no you to be one with God, because is there water to be one with the ocean? The one goal of life is to reunite with the Godhead, the higher self, the one Christ. The wisdom is gained through separating from the unity with self and working through the illusions to reunite with the one self, the higher self, Jesus. And Jesus was appointed and tasked with leading us to getting there, and leads me to reuniting with him, because he is my God and he is God incarnate. But who isn't? Nobody isn't. He just realized it for himself, and then he knew these 2,000 years of darkness would not be good. So his mission was to save people from their insanity. So you give your life to Jesus. Jesus take the wheel, and he'll take the wheel. Just like that for everybody. Everybody's personal Christ, because it exists everywhere. And I'm gonna talk about the dimensions now. So the third and fourth, including of course the second and first dimensions, are incomplete dimensions of consciousness. And a dimension is just. A dimension is a level of consciousness, a different degree of consciousness. So, so all the dimensions prior to the fifth dimension are incomplete dimensions of consciousness, and thus they are more restrictive in experiencing and having consciousness experience. The third dimension is restrictive, as is the fourth, only because a basic and fundamental truth is ignored. That we are all one, or rather that I, myself, am the one. Not me, the ego that I think I am is the one, but it is just the ocean. You are the ocean. You just forgot that you're the ocean. You're a wave in the ocean. You're a wave in the wave. The wave is not separate from the ocean. So it might not. Waves look different from each other. Every wave is unique. But it's like you are the ocean, right? There's no you to be one with the ocean. You're just the ocean. Everything is God. Everything is the higher self, is the universe. So you are the one power source. And the more you resist the one power source, the less power you get. But the more you get with the Lord, the more you remember the Lord, the power source of this whole universe, the more power you have, the more empowered you are. And it's just remembering yourself, remembering what you are a part of, what you are, what you're an aspect of. So the only reason why you would experience from a third dimensional or fourth dimensional point of view at all is because you agreed before you came in here to forget the one basic fact that completes the cube. Imagine restricting your consciousness to only 3 dimensions. Imagine restricting it to only 2, a paper dimension. Cannot be fun. No one is supposed to exist experiencing only 3 or 4 dimensions of reality, which are only the basic building blocks for the basic truth dimension, which is the 5th, the first complete dimension of reality, with anything below it being the building blocks for it and being incomplete. Like imagine existing as just your skeleton and with your organs and everything, but no skin and no flesh, no muscles. That's incomplete. That's what the third dimension is, because you not only feel that time is real. So once you realize that all time is one, you're in the 4th dimension, or it's just like when you're not in thought, when you're not thinking all the time, you're in the 4th dimension. The 4th dimension is like, you know that all time is one, but then that's still an incomplete dimension because you're ignoring the most basic fact that you are the one, that you literally are the universe, that you are the nothing, expansive, infinite universe. You are the same as God. You are the same as it. So the 5th dimension is you realize that, and you know that to be fact, and you know that to be true. You just know it. You just come to the reckoning that you are it. And that's the 5th dimension. That's the complete dimension, because no basic fact of reality is ignored. So you're a complete body in the 5th dimension. But when you're in the 4th and 3rd dimension, you're incomplete because you're ignoring basic facts about reality. And that's why it's difficult to live in this dense dimension, because it's like we're living in an illusion, right? It can't be fun to live in a lie. So that's what we're doing. We just forgot that we are the one, that it's all me, always and forever, that it always will be. It's not me, the Sam, but it's me, the universe. That's what it is. And that's what you can experience on psychedelics. It is coming to that reckoning. So the 5th dimension is the first complete dimension. No one should actually have to experience from a lower dimension. If they do, it is only because they have consented with themselves to believe what is not the full truth. So you're actually agreeing with yourself. You're playing a game with yourself right now, and you're saying, I'm gonna pretend like I don't know. I'm gonna pretend. And then when a guru comes to look at you, they see the Godhead in everybody's eyes, and they just laugh. They're like, why are you playing? Why are you playing? And they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm playing? But everybody implicitly has a conspiracy with themselves to forget their own true identity, which is the entire universe, which is the entire power source of this whole thing, which we call God, which we call the Lord. And say you're the incomplete consciousness of yourself, but then God is the complete and full consciousness of yourself. God will lead you and lead you to knowing more things, and lead you to union with God. So you're never alone, because God is always with you. And God is not what you think. It's always the image that tricks us, right? But God is not what you think. God is God's really cool. So if you're willing to think about, just drop all your ideas about reality and think that maybe reality itself is conscious and aware and intelligent, and you're just ignoring that fact, then you can experience God for yourself. God will say, kind of. If any person who has been used to living all right, so this is another one. This is how they really get us, all right? So it's all the principle of the idea of the self, the idea that we ourselves exist, Sorry about that. All right, this is important. This is how they trick you. People who control this whole world that make you think that it's not controlled. So the goal is to make you think that we're just not being controlled. That we should be living this way. That everything's fine. Everything's fun. Give you all toys and trinkets. Say, hey, look, it's good. Well, they're really fucking you. He's like, go to college, make it exciting. All the high schools with high school is exciting. College, exciting. Really excites you. High school is really exciting. College is really exciting. It gets you excited for the rest of your life, but then you get out there, and you've heard this a million times, you get out to the real world, as we say, which is really the fake world, just the corporate world, having you work for them is really dreadful. And you're tricked. Once you get out of college, you're working for an insurance agency. You're interning at an insurance agency, and you're completely unhappy. Completely unfulfilled. That's why I myself have dropped out of college, and I am now chasing my dreams. And I am manifesting that for myself using the principles of the universe. So this is an important thing to say. So listen to this. If any person who has been used to living the program of society for a long time, so that's just the way we see the world, right? Just a normal person living their life. And they're operating under a program, like Sesame Street programs your behavior. Like Big Bird is like victim mentality. Even though I'm a big bird, I'm a victim. Elmo is some sort of like narcissist, and Cookie Monster is an addict. Is like your addictions, programming to be an addict to what? To cookies, but also to drugs, and to most of all thinking. And Oscar the Grouch is making it seem cool to be a grouch. So Sesame Street programs you, the Flintstones program you, the Jetsons program you, program certain behavior in you, all sorts of shows. Programming, that's why they call it programming on TV. It's right in front of your face. It's not, it's like they have to like make it explicit, because if they just hide it, like they can't just hide it. They have to say, this is programming. We're programming you, okay? You say, I don't know what that means, but okay. It's television programming. All right, so used to living the program of society for a long time, suddenly experiences reality for how it is. Imagine just busting into reality for how it is, dropping all ideas about it. The most of them would be scared out of their wits. Experiencing reality for how it is like a jarring experience if you're not ready for it. It's like nothing to hold on to. There's nothing to hold on to. You're holding on to the concepts of yourself. You're holding on to like ideas, but then once all those ideas are abolished, that's what Buddhism is about. It's about getting rid of all of your ideas and seeing the world for how it is, and then finding God. Once you get rid of all of your ideas about the world, then boom. And then things are reality itself. If reality is to exist, then it's crazy. Reality itself is crazy. We've been hidden from the real stuff going on in space and going on in other dimensions. We're just living in our own bubble on this plantation that we call the world, the real world. Funny how they call it the real world, because it's not the real world. So the controllers of the human race control people since the controllers of the human race since 6,000 years ago in like the Middle East, Egypt, and then Greece, and then Rome, and then Britain, and then us, US. And then they want to do a world government too. That's what they're trying to do. So the controllers of the human race control people through subconscious programming. And they can especially get you when you're a kid, because that's when your subconscious is wide open. It's wide open and ready for suggestion. The program is to make anything outside of the bounds of the program appear to be delusional or trivial, and to make the trivial seem important. so that the actual truth about reality will not be looked at twice and swiftly ignored so as to keep people believing lies. So imagine how much we stigmatize conspiracy theorists. Imagine how much we think that magic, when someone talks about the mystical or the magic, we kind of smirk. It's our programming to make us not look at the real things. To make us, it's like if you wanted to control a population, you program them through suggestion to not look at what you don't want them to look at. So you don't want someone to look at conspiracies. You make conspiracies seem funny, and you stigmatize it, and you make it seem ridiculous. But it's real. There's some shit going on. The whole of society is a social game. Notice that? The whole society is a social game. Telling each other who we are. That's a whole society. We tell each other who we are because we cannot know. All right. So because we cannot know who we are, right? You never see your own face. You can never actually know who you are. So you need someone else to tell you. We remember an image of who we are through the thoughts of the mind. And the mind is the programmed tool that, if observed through, so if you're living your life through your mind and you're not really present, you'll only see the program of society you have installed into yourself throughout life because people have told you to. It's not like people do it to you, but people tell you to. People tell you think this way, and you do it. So there's no one to blame but yourself. So the entire time, people tell you that, like, listen to me, do this, because other people have done the same thing to them. And then you start to listen to them because you're trusting and you're loving. Why would you be suspicious of what they're telling you? Unless you're a really smart cookie. So, okay. So the mind, right? We get all of our thoughts and all of our words, the words that construct the concepts that give rise to the abstract concepts in our head, which give rise to the thoughts in our head. All of those words and symbols and concepts come from society. They don't come from us. They come from the television, which tells a vision. See, you just look at the words. Television. Programming. Television programming. It's the programming that tells you a vision. And school, right? So we don't create the language for ourselves. Someone else gives us the language that we speak. And of course, the grammatical structure of the language and the words which construct the language and the societal overtones of the language itself give us a perception of how reality is, because the language is what are the building blocks or the bricks for our thoughts. So then we think and we see the world in that particular way. So we're not thinking our own thoughts if we think through the mind, but we're thinking the collective thoughts, the collective societal thoughts. We don't have private thoughts. Everybody thinks the same kind of things, unless you're awakened. So there are unawakened people, and there are awakened people. You need to be an awakened person. I'm not saying I command you to be an awakened person, but awakening is the way to go. It is the only way. If you're unawakened, then why bother? So when you go to remember, okay, and then the thoughts that you think give you an image of the world, and then that image of the world you live through, and then the events that happen in your life have meaning when pertaining to who you are. So you have an idea about the world, and then events in your life and people, and based on what they're telling you, reflect back to you what you think, what you are, basically. And then that gives you an idea of what you are in your head. right? It gives you a thought about who you are. And the most important thing is to remember who you are. So when you go to remember who you are, which is the thing we have been tricked into believing is the most important thing about life, the social program is experienced because we then identify ourselves with the program of the society rather than our true selves, because our true selves do not exist in the mind. Only an image of ourselves exists in the mind. Therefore, holding the ideas and values of society. So, the image of ourself in the mind, which is constructed by the societal thoughts, we only have an identity in relation to other people and society itself. So without society and the values and ideas of society, we don't have a self identity, right? We only we only have a self identity when in relation to the society itself. So we if we identify ourselves with being patriotic, then anything anti-patriotic or anti our political stance will seem extremely threatening to us. Not because of the idea itself, but because you've identified yourself with the patriotism and the political stance. Like, because you identify yourself with all of it. Uh, so so therefore, because you know yourself as a function of the society, and you know yourself, the building blocks of you, of what you think you are, is a construction of, is basically what the society is, right? You aren't you unless you live in a society. You aren't you unless you live in society. Therefore, holding, therefore, we hold the ideas and values of society near and dear to our hearts and minds, just as we would love ourselves. This is simply because what we think we are, our identity, the persona that we think we are and we identify with ourselves, exists as a function of the very societal program that has been installed into the mind. So to forsake societal ideas would be like forsaking yourself, as yourself is an idea in the same thought structure that has been fashioned by your mind, by society, and the government, which wants to control you. So, so you have your whole basis of identity based in the societal program. So anything challenging the societal program or challenging your core beliefs will be like challenging you. So what are you without your core beliefs? Because you base yourself and your personality on the beliefs that you hold. That constructs your behavior. So without any of your beliefs and without any of your ideas, then there's no you. So that challenges you, the thing you think you are. But are you the thing you think you are? No, you're the entire universe. The people in this world are born into a world where the rulers are giving us a choice to consent to living in a delusional state of mind and believing what is not true or staying awake. So they give us the choice, right? And we make the choice. They know human psychology very well, and they put a lot of effort into seducing us into giving into lies and living unconsciously and falling asleep, so that they can have control over us as a population of worker slaves. The establishment runs this world like a mafia and kills or suppresses whoever goes against their agenda, which is to run humanity and the course of our society, and lies about the people who are speaking out, portraying them as dangerous enemies of the state. Nazi Germany. We have been given the ability to think and build so that we could build our own cage, which is slowly being closed upon us step by step. The preliminary goal is to profit off of our species and then ultimately kill our species altogether so that we cannot be a threat. You cannot lie and control a population without them knowing that. So to get us to consent to being controlled. So they need to get us to consent to being controlled and outright lied to early on, and then eventually put us to sleep so that we consciously forget that we are consenting to sleepwalk in the first place. The establishment tells you to believe certain things about reality and you, and knowing that it is wrong, do it anyways for no reason at all. The only reason why you are scared and in fear is because you know that you are doing a greatly wrong mistake by believing what is not true. They use hypnosis and fear-building strategies to brainwash your brain so as to make the neural connections retarded and make self-destructive choices more prevalent while cutting off and decreasing neural connections for truthful and great choices in the brain. This does not make self-destructive choices inevitable, because if you wanted to, you could see the programming once it is thought and reject it while knowing the right thing and making that righteous choice. However, it makes the choice to do the wrong thing. I don't even know. There's so much here. I did not write this part well. I really went into it. Anyways, it's like, oh my god. But anyways, they brainwash us. And as long as you think that you yourself exist, that you, separate from the entire universe, exist as yourself, then you can be fooled. Then you can be fooled into loving the country that enslaves you. You know? And for me, in particular, my journey has been like this. This might be the journey for you. For gold is tried in fire, acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. Ecclesiastes 2:5. Behold, I have refined thee, not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction. Isaiah 48:10-12. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Isaiah 13:12. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. So it's like, think for yourself always, and there's more to life. There's way more to life than what we've been presented with. We've been presented with a bleak and frankly stupid way of seeing the world. Only because that you can control someone if they don't have knowledge. And if they think they have knowledge, then they won't seek for knowledge. So that's really the whole gist of it, is like, make them feel like they're smart, but they're really not. Because they're like forgetting the one basic thing. It's like, it's all about just like the self-identity thing. Like, who am I? Who do I define myself as? What are your core beliefs? That's what you define yourself as. And where do your core beliefs come from? The society you live in. So the society is based, your identity and your persona, what you think is you, is created on the basis of the ideas of society. So if the ideas of society are threatened, then you might feel threatened yourself. But it's just to understand that okay, if I challenge the ideas of society, that doesn't mean that I'll crumble. Doesn't mean that I'll lose my own mind. I don't need to have a navigation. I don't need certain ideas in order to navigate in the world. There's no problem about living in the world, so there's no need to have certain core beliefs that you must stick to in order to exist in the world. There's no need for that at all. You can drop that, and you can start experiencing life in just a different way. And you drop the words, And then you see the world in a much different way. And then you begin to wake up. So you as your identity doesn't exist. What you think you are doesn't exist. You are just a wave in the ocean. So you are the ocean. You are the universe. You are the whole universe. There's no separate. You're in the middle of the universe because everybody is in the middle. And then you go off infinitely because nothing separates you. It's just this finite form that the universe is incarnating in order to experience itself from a certain perspective. But the you think you are doesn't exist because it's a thought, and you are the universe itself. You are God. That's what Jesus found out. He's like, hey, everybody, you're God. And everybody's like, no. But they are. And if you were to find that out, that would be the greatest thing. But what that would require of you is to let go of everything. Is to stop holding on. And that's like the scariest thing, right? To let go into nothingness. But that's the greatest thing. That's the leap of faith, is to let go. That's the Lamb of God. That's the sacrifice. You're sacrificing all of your ideas about yourself and the world. And you just let go into infinity and then ecstasy. And then you find out what Christ knew. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.